You've just stepped into the Midlife Revolution Unleashed, your space to ignite possibility, redefine purpose, and embrace the power that comes with age and experience. Co-hosted by yours truly, Coach Wayne.
And I'm Coach Stacy M. Lewis. We are two seasoned coaches focused on the midlife community of color. This isn't just a podcast, it's a movement. In a world that sometimes forgets the power and the wisdom that comes with age, we are here to ignite a revolution and rewrite the narrative of this incredible journey.
So, whether you're navigating your career, growing your business, rediscovering passions, or challenging the status quo, this is your space. So, buckle up. Let's dive into the Midlife Revolution Unleashed. We are back. Thought you got rid of us, but we're back. Welcome, my friend. Listen, Stacy, today we're going to be going all about generational communication, impact, and just settling in and learning to live with others. Stacy, why don't you kick us off, please?
Gladly. So the question of the day is, what if the very tension that you feel with other generations is the key to your growth and impact? Today, we are talking about generational intelligence, bridging the age gap with wisdom and respect. Welcome to the Midlife Revolution Unleashed. I am Stacy Lewis, a nonprofit executive, a coach of midlife women, a lover of God and his people. And it is indeed my joy to be here with my one and only co-host, Wayne. Introduce yourself.
That would be moi. Stacy, it is good to see you. And I am Coach Wayne, the VIP coach. I work with men, helping them navigate midlife and mid-career so that their second half can be their best half. Stace, what we got for the folks today, we are going to be talking about something that's so real. In the workplace today, we have an unprecedented historical happening of 5 generations at some level that's having a sort of interaction. Some cross-generational stuff is happening, and a lot of folks don't know how to deal with it.
I've certainly had my own struggles, and I guess I'm technically somewhere in the middle of those 5. But let's talk about those 5 and what they are, and maybe some of those nuggets and nuances, traits and behaviors that make each generation unique in its own way. You want to start, Wayne?
Yeah, the first one, Stacy, they're also called the veterans, not because they are just military men that served, but they served in the First World War, and they were considered the silent generation, and they experienced the Depression, the Great Depression, and they are traditionalists. So these are folks that are, I think, around about 80 and up today, and you may not see a lot of them in the active workplace as much as you see them on boards or guiding in terms of entrepreneurs and changing hats, but they're there.
Yeah, they're absolutely there. I think we many of us are seeing them just in our family dynamics, right? Whether it's our parents or our grandparents that are in the silent generation, and those of us, that run into different generations in our worship centers, often recognize that there are different generations amongst us.
Yeah. And who's the next, Stacy?
Next would be the baby boomers. I think I just got into the baby boomer category, but those the baby boomers born 1946 to 64. So they're currently ranging 60 to 78. And it's funny to me that one of the traits or behaviors is that they tend to be competitive and goal-oriented and optimistic. They value experience and hierarchy and You're going to love this one, Wayne. They prefer face-to-face or phone conversations and not text messages. Let's keep going.
Sounds like moi. You know, I'm not a techie illiterate, but it's Stacey, so funny. We'll talk about it. But when my kids would send me texts, especially for anniversaries, birthdays, I just didn't see it as communication. So I belong to that group. If you can't show up, you ain't.
Yes, yes. As we keep going, you'll see that they see it as communication.
And then Stacey, there is the Gen X. Gen X, born in 65 through 80. They are ranging about 44 to 60 right now.
Right.
And this is where oftentimes that whole midlife stuff hits in the face, right? For the first time. You're like, uh-oh, not as young as I used to be.
That's true. They tend to be pragmatic, which is interesting as well. And they prefer email and direct communication. They also embrace tech, but still value a little bit of analog thinking. So as we continue to talk about these different generations, folks can already see how some of these dynamics and differences show up. Hello, Delane. Always good to see you. Welcome to Midlife Revolution Unleashed.
And Stace, there comes the Millennials after, otherwise known as Gen Y. And this group is between 29 and 44 years of age.
Yes.
They were born in 81-ish to 96-ish.
Gave yourself a little chuckle there, huh?
Yeah, they're purpose-driven, Stacy, and they're very tech-savvy. They value feedback typically, and remote work is their thing. If they could have it, they'd have it.
Yes, they actually expect it. So I think that tends to breed a little bit of conflict sometime. That expectation of remote work. Certainly, they expect flexibility as well as prefer that digital centricity first.
But I'll tell you, before we move on to the next generation, Stacey, they're the ones who I'm looking at and I'm saying, you know what? That old loyalty, working 40 hours and 40 years, get that old watch, they have shown me that that is something that you can put out the door. You don't have to have that because these guys are about purpose.
Yeah. When we were talking about the silent generation and the baby boomers, there are some resonance around loyalty and what loyalty looks like, right? We're not trying to say one generation is not loyal, but it is what loyalty looks like and how they live loyalty out as it relates to work in particular.
Stacey, what say you about Gen Z?
Gen Z. Whoop, whoop. So Gen Z was born 1997 to 2012. So they are 13 to 28-ish. Is that how you say it, Wayne? Ish. They are definitely digital natives. They value diversity. I find fascinating that they also value mental health. And they have a really deep resonance with social impact. And here we go, Wayne. They prefer short form, instant communication. So DM me, memes, video, text, deuces. But they bring innovation and sometimes struggle in a traditional workplace. So let's dive in because I think it's really fascinating as we talk about.
Yeah, I say this with tongue in cheek. They think the news is TikTok.
Yes, no, but they seriously do. And so I think the beauty here of generational intelligence is that we really get to adapt it and adopt it in a way that helps us all move forward, right? Because ideally, that is what we want. We all want to move forward in a way that is meaningful and together.
Yeah. And says because we are really, our focus has been midlifers, which actually can cross some of these generations. In fact, you know, if we're looking at midlife and we throw out the number 40 and we go all the way through, say, late middle 60s, we're covering Gen X, we're covering baby boomers, and we're touching a little bit on the millennials, right? And I would say that one of the things that midlifers are in a position to do is to chalk up years of experience, because you're no longer a chick, right? You're earning your stripes and have earned some stripes in terms of the decades behind you. And so it puts you in a position where you can be sort of a translator in the middle of the mix and certainly a leader.
Absolutely. I think that you also, and I think I would embrace your word translator and change it to mediator, maybe, right? Or you get to advocate for one over or to the other. So there's really great opportunity here in this beautiful sweet spot that we are calling midlife now. Good evening, Sir Curtis Brooks. It is good to see you again in the live audience. Welcome.
Yep. Stacey, I discovered that there are folks who are on the download checking us out, but they don't put their information up there. I don't know if they go in, incognito. But I'm hearing from folks that this weekend I spoke at an event and somebody saw me and said, I've been following you. I love your podcast. So big up to the folks who are listening.
Big up.
Just
big up. And Curtis said, so Curtis, I'm going to blame it all on Wayne. Curtis said he didn't see us on LinkedIn. You know, that Sir Wayne, he has been covering the speaker circuit. And I believe I posted, I don't know what happened, but we're so glad that you found us on Facebook. Yeah. We will check out that technology issue. Let's cover, Wayne, quickly. The overall definition of what generational intelligence is.
Okay.
And for the purpose of our podcast, we are defining it as the ability to effectively engage with and adapt to the values, not adopt the values, but adapt to the values, the communication styles, and the work-life perspectives of people from other age cohorts or other generations. And so I love that definition because it's really saying that we're entering the conversation, the situation without judgment. We're really focused on effectively engaging in ways, again, that help us all move forward. And so many of us are really experiencing intergenerational activities, situations. We talked about whether it be on the job, in your place of worship, in your own family dynamics. Many of us in this sweet spot are taking care of elders and still raising children or have children in college. And so there really is, I believe, a way that everyone can benefit from this conversation that we're having about generational intelligence, the GQ.
You know what has changed a lot is over the years, now that we have 5 generations, the hierarchical, say 30 years ago, there was a hierarchy. When you walked into the place, the guy or the lady with the silver hair usually was the leader. And they had a sort of coveted position where they didn't necessarily take feedback from the bottom. There used to be back in a top-down sort of management system. And the middle guys were your managers and supervisors, meaning the middle generation. And then the younger folks were the guys on the floor, the get it done task guys. But what has changed now is younger folks are leading up in teams over times. And some of the silver-haired fellas are and gals are still there doing the work, but they oftentimes just prefer to stay where they are and don't necessarily climb. And so you may have, which is kind of strange for some folks, people 10, 20 years your junior managing and supervising you. And one of the things, Stacey, as you had alluded to just now, is us not putting labels and judging folk and having a sense of greater empathy as we go across generations and stop pointing fingers and saying it's because they're young or what they old, because that is what is causing the rift, I think, oftentimes.
Absolutely. You mentioned empathy, and really that empathy and adaptability are at the foundation of generational intelligence. And it is that empathy, that listening without the judgment or the labels, and adaptability, being able to meet people where they are, and not want them to be where you are, or not want them to be what you want them to be, but really accepting them, meeting them where they are.
Yeah. Strength-based analysis, when we are working with teams, it's important that we recognize folks for their unique nuances. And if in fact we know that on the team there's a person who really likes to deal with the technical stuff, it makes sense to help them to develop those areas and not try to force them into a box. You know, for example, I like face-to-face meetings. But when I managed a team of 21 folks in corporate, a lot of them were a generation or so younger, right? And many of them much preferred remote meetings. So I would split my meetings. I'd have some mornings of stand-up and others where we just zoomed in. And that way everybody kind of felt that they were being met.
Right. And I think you gave a great example earlier about how, you receive text messages on your birthday and on your anniversary. And for you, your generation, it didn't necessarily feel like the way you wanted to receive those heartfelt, sentimental, good wishes. Yet the reality is, I'm sure you've had to adapt, right? These are people you love, so you've had to adapt to the reality that they may not communicate those loving sentiments the way that you traditionally like.
Yeah, even within my family, I have a spread of generational differences with my young adults, my children. And Dia is on the call. Hi, Dia. She's early 30s, so she lands in millennia. And well, that means they're all there. But she's at the upper end of it, relative to some of the others that are early 20s. And you can see the difference, how we gather and speak. Once upon a time, Stacy, I used to just herd all the kids together, and it was a blanket statement about how we're moving forward. And I realized that they all didn't want to be addressed as a group, right? And the same is true when we look at our own families across the board and our work families, so to speak. We can't just address everybody with one broad stroke. Stacy, your voice is gone. What's the matter with you? I think.
So it's okay. It's okay. I'm back. And I'm agreeing with you. Absolutely. Another real life scenario, so to speak, is when we were preparing for this episode, one of the biggest chuckles I got was thinking about when the songs Stomp came out by Kirk Franklin, and when the song Shackles came out by Mary Mary. Now, for those of you that know anything about gospel music, these were two very, very contemporary songs. Now, I mean, we're talking contemporary back in what, the 90s, maybe? And the reality was that the older folks in the church were, some of them were just borderline appalled. Yet the generations, those younger generations, right? They were teens and they were in their 20s and they loved it. Right now, we're all heading in the same directions, a stronger relationship with God. But when I tell you that, the generational intelligence really leapt off the page when it came to these contemporary songs being in the church setting. So they impact us even when we don't really think about
I got
it.
a joke for you, Stacy.
Oh
So
God.
regarding music, I had at my 60th party, the DJ came and he was setting up and he asked about, he was lining up. I guess he brought his tray of old music, right? Well, those who know me know that I just don't like old music. And I don't say that in a way to say old as in nostalgic music. I don't know what it is, but I can't do the ultra young stuff, but I like something that falls in the middle. Like, when it comes to reggae, for example, I like what they call cultural reggae music. I don't
Okay.
like the dance hall style music.
Mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm.
the older music, like if you were to go back to like your Al Greens and
Okay.
yeah, that stuff I can't do. It's nostalgic, but it gets me into a place where it's a little sad for me. I don't know.
Not to jam. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll keep
So
that in mind. I'll make sure I don't buy you and Audrey an Al Green album for your anniversary.
yeah. But again, as we talk about that sort of adaptation in the workplace, especially, it's important that we recognize, no matter what side of the fence you are in terms of the generation, that your culture and what's happening for you is not necessarily the right way, nor is the other person's the wrong way. It's just a different way.
It's
And
just
it's
different.
okay.
Absolutely. So let's offer our community a couple of GQ reflections, a little reflection check-in. The reality is that we all likely bring, whether it be some bias or some prejudice or a lack of empathy to any given situation. And so let's think about, when have you dismissed someone's opinion because of their age? I can certainly resonate with this, having Curtis. I can certainly resonate with this, having a workspace with many, generations, and or at least a few generations, and even in coaching, sometime when there are younger, I think about the coaching training programs that I participated in, and when they are younger attendees, participants, sometimes they'll say something, and my immediate reaction, and I'm just being totally transparent here, is, oh, they're so young. She doesn't know yet, right?
Yeah.
But realistically, I'm dismissing someone because of their age. And I think it's a great question for all of us to ask someone, or to ask ourselves rather, as we think about this generational intelligence.
And that goes both ways, Stacy, because people tag us when we're older as if we don't know. Like, do you have email? Like, do I have an email? What do you think I am? I was born with the dinosaurs.
Does somebody ask you that, Wayne? Do you have email?
So,
yeah, just connect with me on the Facebook, right?
and we talk about reflections. What is the narrative that we have in our heads about other generations? And is it true or is it a false narrative? And how does it serve us or serve them?
Or how does it not?
Yeah.
Right? How does it not serve us? And I think in those questions, or as we're answering those questions, whether you're writing them down or really just thinking them through, right? We really want to identify ways that we can adjust, that we can adapt our own thinking about ourselves, ourselves as a person of a certain age, whatever that age is, and how we might then project that thinking onto others in different age groups.
Stace, one of the things that I would suggest that folks do is if you lead teams that you find, we talked about strength, but oftentimes that you marry different generations together on the team. So you get a wide spectrum of outlook and, everybody grows and learns from the other person. I think that's a rewarding thing to do. And
Yeah.
I think the whole team benefits from having those sort of mixes.
I agree. I think that is where we get to share the generational wisdom. We get the generational wisdom exchange, right? It is not necessarily that the older generation is always sharing or imparting wisdom with the younger generation. Vice versa is also a very real and actionable possibility. And so that is where, like you said, those cross teams, while I coach midlife women, it doesn't mean that I won't coach other women that find that there's alignment, and I find that there's alignment. Because the reality is that there is that opportunity to exchange wisdom and to glean from each other, regardless of our age, if we're
Yeah.
open.
Yeah. Hey, Felipe, welcome. Good to have you, my brother.
Welcome, Felipe.
Stacy, one of the other things that we need to do, I say we need to, again, need to is a bad way of doing it because it's impressing my will. But one thing that folks might want to consider is revering those folks that are of the generation that went before you, only because with them comes the experience that you just don't get from just showing up, meaning you have to pay the cost of time and longevity to get some of that stuff. And so when we talk especially about family or even organizations, there's wisdom to sit and have a mentor or to speak if you're still lucky enough to have your grandparents alive or an older family member. It's so wise, I think, to sit down, as we used to say, at their feet and ask for information that they have seen and lived.
Because if we know nothing else, they have lived, right? We know that there has to be so much that they have seen, but the fact that they have lived demonstrates a resilience that we all want to embody. And sometimes we have it naturally. Oftentimes we don't. We learn to be resilient. And it is in those types of conversations that you just talked about where we are open and willing to glean from those that have lived more life than we have. We really get to learn and witness the beauty of resilience, the gift of resilience, and how it allowed others to make their mark despite the adverse winds.
Yeah. Stace, is there anything in particular that that you would like to share with your audience, our audience, about what they can implement to improve their generational IQ?
Absolutely. One is that reminder that wisdom is not bound by age. It's revealed through understanding. And I'm sure that we have all come across that wisdom in different age groups. One opportunity to reflect is to really ask yourself honestly, what generation triggers me the most? And then ask yourself, what can they teach me?
Yeah.
I think we have so many opportunities to really expand our own generational intelligence, our own GQ in a way that helps us all move forward in the right direction. And so that would be my nugget, really, to ask oneself, those reflective questions.
Yeah. And if I may add,
Of
Stacy,
course.
for folks as a coaching prompt, look at folks in your circle, whether you're going up across the board or down in terms of the generation, and ask yourself, what gift can this person in that generation offer to me? Because I'll tell you, when you watch kids play, they don't go out there with the issues of color and race and all that stuff that we have. They are free, they fall, they get up. There's no shame in the game to try again. And if we would just be cool and take it in, that's quite a lesson right there.
A beautiful lesson, and one I think worthy of everyone thinking about and adopting or adapting, whichever word is right, into their thought life, in a way that's healthy and positive and allows us to look at the other generations as a wealth, a well of wealth, and see ourselves as a part of a generation, also as part of that well of wealth. And we're really looking to exchange and share the wealth with others.
Stacey, I got one question before we go. You tell the people how to find you. Are you a Coke or a Pepsi generation? Okay.
Well, I can't say we grew up drinking a lot of soda, but what I will say is if you're going to offer me one or the other, I will take a Pepsi. How about you, Wayne?
Ginger ale.
See, now that wasn't right. You post an option, Coke or Pepsi, and then you choose neither, something else. I can be reached at thestacymlewis.com. For those of you that are connected to the Midlife Revolution Unleashed on LinkedIn or Facebook, you are always welcome to DM either of us. We would love to hear from you, and you can certainly check us out on your favorite podcast player. The Midlife Revolution Unleashed is nothing without you joining conversation.
That's right.
What you got, Wayne?
Well, just hit me up at VIPtransformativeliving.com. All my handles are there. Sometimes giveaways if you catch me on the right day. But you can certainly DM me anytime and ask for a one-on-one to see if we're a good fit so I can help you make sure that your second half is your best half. This is Coach Wayne.
Where's Coach Wayne going to see you?
I'm going to see you at the top. Stace. Is that it for us?
That is it for us. Thank you all so very much for joining us on the Midlife Revolution Unleashed. I am your co-host, Stacy M. Lewis, and I bid you all a fond farewell. Until the next time.
We're out.
And there you have it, folks. This week's episode of the Midlife Revolution Unleashed. Hey, we truly appreciate your spending this time in this space with us. Join us next week at the same time as we dive into relevant topics and present solutions to spark new thinking and empower your midlife journey.
And don't forget, if you enjoyed today's episode, let us know in the comments and share it with others. And of course, remember to subscribe, share, like, hit that notification bell. You are the Midlife Revolution Unleashed. I'm Coach Stacy, and I'm cheering you on.
And I'm Coach Wayne, and I'll see you at the top.